Hi, my name is Tanya from Power Pantaloons. I'm your holistic cancer wellness guide, and today we have Dana Phillips with us. Welcome, Dana.
Hi, Tanya. Thanks for having me here.
This, I want to do this. That's what I want to do, so everybody can see everybody. So,
Okay.
Dana, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Sure. So, as I said, my name is Dana Phillips. I'm with Sage and Harmony Holistic Coaching Services in Valdosta, Georgia. Just recently moved to Georgia. I am an emotional wellness coach and I specialize in anxiety, anger management, and domestic violence coaching. I am certified as a health and life coach, anger management specialist, and domestic violence specialist. And I'm a nationally recognized provider for the National Anger Management Association.
That's a lot of wonderful things. But it is. It
Keep
is.
busy, girl.
And yes, it sounds like you have a very full plate.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
what what called you into helping people? It sounds like you help a lot of women. It seems like that you're woman centric.
Men and women. So, for domestic violence, actually, more men are starting to come forward with the violence that's happening, narcissistic abuse, emotional, mental abuse, stalking, things like that. So, abuse comes in a lot of different forms. Anger management, specifically, because I do court mandated classes. We do have men and women in that specific field. But as a DV survivor myself, I'm a rape survivor, homelessness at 15. You know, those things bring on anxiety. So, the trauma and all the things that come with it. I was in the medical field for 24 years, and my last couple of years, once I was officially diagnosed with anxiety, I needed to really understand what it was. And because I had more of a clinical brain, I needed to really, well, what is anxiety? You just told me that I have anxiety. It's just a word, right? So until you have a definition, it's just this thing. And then when I was really in a big self-help journey, doing all the things, and when I read what anxiety was, I was like, oh, well, why didn't somebody just tell me that? Like, why, why did they just make it seem like it was this incurable disease and that it was this horrible thing? And so I learned how to not find myself again, because what I found was finding yourself doesn't really fit, I think, when you hit a certain point in your life. I had spent so many years running, and then B, I was no longer the same person, right? There was more traumas, there was more experiences, there were a lot of other things that happened. So I was like, well, can I create myself again? Like, is that a thing? And then it was a thing, and I made it become a thing. And so my programs are really tailored around my personal experiences, some of my failures that I bring in of lessons. And so that is how I got here. I'm everything that I teach spiritually, emotionally, mentally has all been tried and tested, by me personally, because I've survived it. But also, you know what I mean, like the beautiful experience that, I believe in empowering through education. So I'm not here to necessarily cure any diseases. I'm here to specifically give you the education so you can learn how to apply it for yourself and, be self-sufficient. That's really the name of the game. How do we heal ourselves?
Absolutely. I I couldn't agree more with that. It took a very long time for me to come to a place where I was actually grateful for my cancer journey. And I don't think I am yet ready to be grateful for the fact that I was molested at 5 and
Yeah.
like um I don't know if I'll ever get there,
Yeah.
honestly. And
Yeah.
I don't think I have to, but learning how to I agree with you on the finding yourself. I don't think that that's right, but healing the broken parts inside of you so that you can become the person that you want to be. Like
Yeah.
you are absolutely in charge of that. So there's no
Yeah.
reason for you to continue to be broken. Um you have the power to be whatever or whoever you want to be. Just go get it. And if you want to be a whole healed person, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. We all have the things that we have to learn how to figure out how to heal. And the more that we help each other do that,
Mhm.
the better off the entire planet will be.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's awareness. It took me a long time to, and I didn't do it obviously personally, but to um thank my abusers and to thank not necessarily my rapist, but the fact of it happening and me understanding how to do all those things because now I'm more relatable to my clients, right? So like and I'm very vocal about my experiences. Obviously, I speak to them about it very, I'm able to speak about it more comfortably now. However, in being able to do so, it opens up a space of vulnerability for my clients also, so that they know that it's a safe space. They understand that we may have not have had the exact same experience, but I get it. And so I it's very gentle procedure with everything. So I'm here and we'll talk about as much as you want to talk about or as little as you want to talk about. And I'm not here to pressure you or re-traumatize you. Let's take what we know, reframe it, work and build that to strengthen you, and then we can move on from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I agree with you on speaking about it and having had that journey yourself makes it easier for the people that you're helping to relate to you. You're absolutely right about that. Which is entirely why I'm doing what I'm doing and helping the people I'm helping. I want to be the resource I needed and didn't have
Right.
because as as much as somebody says you know I know what you went through, if they didn't go, like if a doctor didn't look at you and say, I'm sorry, you have cancer, you really don't know.
No.
You can be as compassionate as you want to be about it, but until you stand in those shoes, you really don't. So, when I interact with people that haven't had that kind of, but everybody has something, right? So,
Yeah.
and I don't pretend to understand what their trauma is about,
Yeah.
but I can still have compassion that they went through it. And I find that when you're talking about specific aspects, like having cancer was traumatic. So
Hmm.
when I talk to individuals about hair, we could talk about hair for a second, right? When your oncologist says you're going to lose your hair, you automatically think about the hair on your head, which is exactly what I did. So I rocked a mohawk and I didn't think about the fact that I have hair all over my body, not just on my head. And it never occurred to me, even though it's common sense, that I was going to lose all of my pubic hair at once in a shower. And then I melted down and had a 45-minute crying jag in the shower because I was so upset by it. If I could spare even one person that,
Yeah.
I, you know, there are so many different nuances of the journey that you walked that you can talk to people about that somebody who hasn't been there won't understand.
Right.
And I think that's when people are like, well, shouldn't the oncologist, like, shouldn't you know that? Shouldn't somebody have said something? Yeah, they told me I was going to lose my hair. They thought they had covered it, right?
Yeah.
And when you speak with the social worker and they ask if you have any questions, you don't have any questions because you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know
Right.
what to ask.
Right.
And I found it, looking back, I mean, this was 16 years ago. So looking back, maybe the social worker could have said to me, okay, so, well, here are some common questions that I didn't get anything like that. Like, I sat with her for 10 minutes. We were done. Like, it could have been a better experience.
Right.
So where I'm going with this is asking questions, talking to people that are have lived through similar experiences do does absolutely help you process something.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing was also for me was learning how everybody defined certain things, right? So um, and that's one of the first things that we do in my programs is we start understanding how are you defining things? How are you defining safety? How are you defining peace? How are you defining love? How are you defining your anxiety? How are you defining certain things? For you, you needed to learn how to redefine what that was. So for you, cancer means specifically this. For somebody else, it can mean something different. The experiences are going to definitely overlap. But I think that when we ask the question of, so what does this mean for you? Like, how are you defining it? It helps us to build a better understanding. It helps in communication of compassion. So we're learning how um, to basically connect with the other person on a more personal level, on a deeper level, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah, it does. It, not a high how are you level, but like
yeah,
an actual real communicative
yeah,
space
yeah,
where you truly see each other,
yeah,
you know. In this day and age that is a lost art,
yeah,
especially with all of the technology that we have and with it we should be more connected and more, but we're not. It causes a lot of distractions and it makes it harder for people to connect genuinely. And of course the COVID activity, we're just going to call it that,
yeah,
certainly didn't help. It isolated people for 3 years, and so there is more disconnect now on the planet than ever as far as I'm concerned.
yeah,
Not that I'm an expert. Not in that anyway.
right. Yeah. I think they're with social media, everybody just wants to be seen.
Yeah.
That's just it. They just want to be seen. They want to be heard. And even ourselves, we think that this is a way to do it. The way to do it is by posting and by, we're either posting pictures of what we ate or maybe an inspirational message or whatever it is. I post pictures of my garden all the time. Like, hey, I finally grew something and I didn't kill it. Look, look at me. So I mean, it's just we want to be heard, we want to be seen. And it's not that, I'm lonely or to cry for anything. It's just it's nice to be able to connect. And that's really what, the premise of it is. It's hopefully it's more of that. But you're right, we end up just becoming more disconnected than anything.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I say around my house is it takes a village to raise a Tanya. And like when we stepped away from that kind of even that kind of family situation, multiple generations living in the same house and sort of being a family community, that causes issues too, right? I mean, living with your whole family also causes issues, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't talk to my neighbors. I don't know them. Like I'll wave once in a while, but I don't really know them.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, I did. I mean, might be dating myself here a little bit, but before cell phones and sorry, excuse me, I got hair that's bothering me. I don't know what it's doing.
Yeah. A rogue.
Um, yeah, so a little rogue blue hair being
Yeah.
crazy. But when I grew up, when the street lights came on, I was supposed to be home. That was the defining thing. And my mother didn't have a way to get in touch with me. She had no idea. I mean, she had a general idea where I was outside. That's where I was.
Outside in the
I
neighborhood.
was
Yeah.
playing,
Yeah.
uh, you know. It's just different. Very different.
Yeah,
Wow,
definitely.
what a weird tree branch that was, right? It happens though, right? Like I
That's
get
good. That's what happens with organic conversations. It's good.
it is. It is. Um I don't it was at the beginning of the conversation when you were talking about domestic violence and the fact that more men are starting to speak up. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I personally know a male who had a narcissistic wife, and it took him a very long time to come to the conclusion that he was being abused,
Yeah.
and then it took even much longer for him to say it out loud.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any like pointers or advice, or how would somebody help somebody in that situation?
Narcissistic abuse is so dangerous because a lot of times they isolate their victims, and so they pull them away from friends and family. They they use gaslighting, and
Yeah.
so like in my case, my abuser used to change the furniture in the room and tell me, "No, it was like that. What are you talking about?" To the point where I would actually have to take pictures because I thought I was going crazy. Like I legit thought I was going crazy and record conversations because he would say, "That's not what happened. We didn't talk about that. That's not what I said." And I'd be like, "What?" So it literally started just kind of questioning my own sanity. So the reason that, narcissistic abuse is so dangerous is because it's, yes, even there could be a physical abuse that happens, but the, excuse my French, for lack of a better term, the mental fuck that happens is absolutely, insane. So I would suggest, if you suspect that you or someone that you love is the victim of specifically narcissistic abuse, um, reach out to somebody close to you that you trust. Be able to kind of decipher, record conversations, and talk to the person that outside of the home that you love and trust. Start making a plan, even if it's, a little bit long term, but give yourself the grace. A victim will attempt to leave statistically 7 to 8 times before they actually leave their abusers. And the reason for that is because we have hope. We have hope that the person's going to change. We
Or
get
not?
glimpses, and no, they're not, because what they do is there's that cycle of abuse that happens, right? It's the honeymoon phase. Then you have the lead up phase, you have the explosion phase, and then back to the honeymoon phase. And the honeymoon phase is the way of emotionally and mentally anchoring you to let you know, hey, I'm really a good guy or really good girl. Like I'm not that bad because look, I bought you flowers, I took you on this trip, we went shopping, here's a new shiny ring, here's a new shiny car. And so it's like, oh yeah, well, she really loves me or whatever, and you're like, okay, so it's not that bad. Well, it can't always be that bad because they know that if it's always that bad, you're not going to stay. So they need to have an emotional anchor to bring you in. That, well, remember the time, or remember, I loved you when you were at your worst. You're supposed to, like, you're my partner. Did you want like cookies for that? Like, what, you know what I mean? So these are the things that, the abuser will say in order to emotionally anchor you. The reason that we leave finally is because we understand that this is who the person is and that there isn't a change that's going to happen. This is fundamentally who they are as a human. And that it doesn't matter. I can't love you enough that you're going to change. Nothing that I bring to the table is going to change your behavior. Because a lot of times we hear, well, if you didn't do this, I wouldn't have done that. Like if you would take care of yourself better, I wouldn't have to go sleeping with these other women. It's your fault that I do that. That's abuse.
Yes, it is.
That's abuse,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, the other part of it is understanding what actually abuse is. I had 3 young ladies last year within 1 month's time. I'll never forget this. This was last year, April. I had 3 young ladies come to my office between the ages of 17 to 23, 24, brought in by their mothers, all three of them. All three of them said they were coming in for anxiety. And the girls would tell me, yeah, so this is what's going on. I'm feeling really anxious. This is what's happening. I have a boyfriend. I have a significant other. This is what's happening. And the mothers would sit there and they would defend the boyfriends. They said, well, yeah, he has a little bit of an anger issue, but it's not bad because he's never hit her. And I just sat there, literally all three of these young girls in this age. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay. So the mothers leave the room. I talk a little bit more with the girls and I say, so when you say he's never hit you, so what has he done? Have you ever felt scared? Well, yeah, because he punches the wall like next to me, or he'll throw things at me. He threw some water at me one time. Okay. The other one was stalking. The other one was stalking. So, well, he's never actually hit her, and he's really a good guy. So he comes from a good family. It's not really abuse. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, that's it. That's the standard that you've set for these girls. That if he doesn't hit you, it's not abuse. The most dangerous thing that we can tell ourselves or that somebody can tell us is at least he or she did it. Because the second you say that, you're setting a metric. As soon as you say that, you're like, okay, if hitting me is the bar, then anything just below it is okay.
As a society, we set it up. We start that with the nonsense. Oh, Jimmy pulled your hair, and that's because he liked you. We start it when they're young. Like
Young. Yeah.
I've said these things because that was what I learned when I was a kid.
Right.
And it took me a long time to get to the point where I look at it, I'm like, no, that's unacceptable.
Right.
There's no reason for little Jimmy to be putting his hands on you for any reason. Like
Any reason
pulling,
whatsoever.
bra snapping, none of that. None of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
No.
So
And
now these, so it was really difficult for them to understand the concept of the abuse, the verbal abuse that they were getting, calling out your name, taking your phone, throwing it into the pond. I mean, just, not allowing you to spend your own money. Every check that you get, some of the girls were getting, they had to give it to the boyfriend. They weren't even living together, but they had to give it to their boyfriend so then that way he can allowance out what they were getting. And I said, well, if the only person that should be doing that is your mother, like you're still living with it. If you're going to do that to anybody, it should be mom, not Kyle, random Kyle at this point. But it's the education, and some of those moms were right around my age, a little bit younger, and some are right at my age. So yeah, I grew up with the same thing. Oh, if he bullied you in school, he liked you. That means the kid liked you. No, my daughter knew if he bullied you in school, kick his butt because he shouldn't be bullying you in school. Like that's not that's not what we do here. If your father doesn't put his hand on you, I don't put my hands on you. Nobody should be putting their hands on you for any reason, shape, or form. And it's never okay. If Jimmy wants to express his, unwavering love and affection for you, tell him to learn how to buy flowers. Like have him learn how to communicate that. Why is, tripping you and being mean to you a sign of affection?
well, as a society, we need to change because we're still
Yeah.
teaching the boys will be boys bullshit because
Oh
it's
God.
bullshit.
Yeah.
And instead of nipping that dangerous behavior in the bud immediately when we see it, it goes on for decades, and here we are.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of work to do as a society
Yeah.
across many boards. We really,
Yeah.
really do. Um, I absolutely believe that the psychological and the mental abuse is more dangerous at long term than the
Yeah.
physical abuse. You heal
Yeah.
from the physical abuse, and I know that sounds kind of like flip, but it's not. Like I've seen people in my life. I've watched the physical abuse and the verbal abuse and you know, and I've seen people in cycles that they just never could get out of, no matter how much people got them out of situations in relationships, and they would go right back into it, that kind of relationship again. You know, one of the hardest things to do is watch somebody that you love make those choices and not work on healing themselves so that they feel like they deserve better than that and that they're
Yeah.
willing to put up with that. And it just, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna cry.
One of the things that was a hard conversation that I needed to have, right? Because at some point I have to say, okay, well, the common denominator here is me, right? What am I doing to attract these people, these situations? What's going on with me? And it was a hard conversation to have. And there was some childhood healing that needed to get done. I needed to identify my codependency and my emotional abandonment and my physical abandonment and, all the things that were happening to me at a really early age. And so learning to heal those things, and we always use the analogy, especially in spiritual community, of like onions, right? So you peel the onion and there's always the layers, that you go through. And just as you think that you're at a really good space, so I just moved in with my now husband in December, and I done a ton of healing before that. Everything was really good. But to be quite honest with you, that was a huge trigger for me because I never moved in with a man before.
Yeah,
And
new identity.
I didn't realize that I was going to get triggered because there was, from the time that I was on my own from 15 years old, I am now aging myself closer to 50 than anything. But, from 15 years old till December, we're in July, I set myself up I will always have a home and I will never depend on anybody and nobody will ever take my home away from me again. And that was how I was. And I was hyper independent. I started learning more interdependence literally with him, but but the other ones that were in my life before that, they were all, for lack of a better term, abusive in one form or another. He's the only person that has been a healthy, safe space. And everybody wants a healthy relationship until you get into a healthy relationship. And then you realize, I don't know how to deal with a healthy relationship because I've never had a healthy relationship before. To admit at 48 years old that I'd never been in a healthy relationship before was terrible. It was horrible, but it was
Yeah,
my truth. What was I going to do? You know,
face it, that's all you can do.
that's all you can do. So now there's all of these other little shadow things that started showing up for me that, and I'm grateful for him. He gives me the space to be able to not just heal it myself, but to say, okay, well, what do you need? Like, do you need a hug? Do you need just to cry? Do you need reassurance? Tell me what you need. Being in a healthy relationship allows you to heal. You can't heal in a toxic environment. For all the work that we do, like all the self-help stuff that we do, if you're still in a toxic environment, you're never going to fully heal properly. And I'm not saying that I'm fully healed now. I still have a lot of work to do, but I have a better awareness of it. And now I'm in a calmer space where I don't have to heal that plus the new trauma that's coming in on a daily basis, if that makes sense.
It does. I find that if you look at society, it seems as the older a woman gets, the less horseshit she puts up with.
Oh, yeah.
And I really believe that's because she's found the value of herself and done a lot of really hard work to get to the point where she's like, these are my standards. And if you're
Yeah.
not going to meet them, it's not my responsibility to try to
Yeah.
help you do that.
Right.
But I am going to tell you where you are in this so that if you want to
Yeah.
figure out how to get up here, that's on you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting. It really
Yeah,
is.
it is. Look, 20 years old, we think that we know everything, we have the answers for everything. 30 years old, you're like, well,
I don't know,
maybe
damn thing.
not so much. No, I don't think I knew as much as I think that I did. And then 40, you're like, dang, I ain't knew nothing.
At 30, hey
The
mom,
less
so
now that I ever did. Yeah.
hey mom, I've realized I don't know anything. Could you help me
Yeah.
with this?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So yeah, so you know, that's just how we navigate, compassion, love, kindness, self-compassion, love, kindness, respect, worth, patience, grace. Those are all important things to be able to get you just to get through the day some days. You and I were just having that conversation. You have to give yourself
Allowing
some grace.
allowing yourself some grace is one
Yeah.
of the best gifts that
Yes,
you
ma'am.
can give yourself.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
truly is.
Yes, ma'am.
Just because we really are our most harsh critics.
Aren't we?
And we allow grace for the loved ones in our lives, but don't allow it for ourselves. Well, that's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You are allowed to have just as much grace as you give to the person you love the most, which
Absolutely.
should be you. Really, you should be taking care of yourself. But I know that sometimes that can be a little difficult. And having your community, we're going to go back to community, having your community so that when you're not strong and you need help, they can help you because you're strong for them when they need the help. And
Absolutely.
asking for help can be very challenging, especially if you are a strong-willed individual.
Yes.
Um, sometimes I think the sense of humor of the divine, um, putting some stubborn individuals in a spot where they have to ask for help.
Mm.
Man, doing that
Yeah.
cancer thing was difficult, and I needed a lot of help, and I have learned how to ask for help. I've also one of the things that happens is your memory. Chemo brain is a real thing, and shortly after my journey, I'm not sure where, but it was very close to diagnosis day. Maybe in a couple of years after. I'm not entirely sure, but I was out about the town shopping and somebody approached me, addressed me by name, clearly knew who I was. I had no idea who they were. So my epic response was to burst into tears and run away. And I feel really bad about that now. I didn't know how to handle the situation because it
Yeah.
hadn't happened to me and I handled it really poorly. Recently, I was at a gathering where there were people that I have met before and I don't remember. Um, I handled it way more gracefully this time because I had that experience in the past and learned from it. And I'm sorry, I don't remember who you are. And then we just had conversations. They're like, they explained who they were and where they were in my life. And I'm like, I still don't remember, but it's nice to re-meet you. Like. So grace is very important.
Definitely.
Oh, my goodness. I could talk to you for hours, but so before we started, you were telling me that you have put out a couple of journals. I would love for you to talk about those.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So we have the Growing Through It thought release journal. And it's just a blank journal. And it's a nice space to, just journal your daily thoughts, gratitude. We also have a Growing Through Anxiety workbook. These are all available on Amazon. You can just actually type my name into Amazon and all of my books will go in through there. Growing Through Gratitude is my gratitude journal. We have a gratitude journal for both men and women. The men's journal is Moment of Gratitude. It's just a 5-minute journal. And then my personal favorite is the Magical Manifesting Moon Journal. She's so pretty. Like I just spent so much time and just gave her so much. I mean, all my books have love, but I'm just such a moon girl that this was such a special, fun project for me. And this one is for new moon, full moon cycles for your rituals. So it's a nice little space to just journal your new moon intentions, some rituals that you have, anything that you're grateful for, some personal notes. There's space there for that. Your full moon rituals, any release, cord cutting that you wanted to do. So it's just a nice little magical book, even if you are beginner to intermediate, like super woo woo. This is a beautiful space to just be able to journal some of your love and your thoughts. And all of my books are made with loads of love and beautiful healing energy. So love sharing that with everybody. So yes, Amazon, Dana Phillips, it's on there. Get your copy now. We have a bunch of like little different colors of books and stuff. This one's
They're beautiful.
thank you.
I will make sure to put her author page or her Amazon author page in the show notes so people can find her and purchase her lovely journals. I know for a fact that while I was going through my trauma journey, that journaling it out was helpful. Do I know where these journals are right now? No. Would I love to know? Yes, because I think it's important to look back and reflect where you were. And Dana has a lovely way for you to do that. I want to thank Dana for being here today.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. As did I. It was an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. All right, we're gonna say goodbye for now.
Bye, guys. Have a wonderful day.